Good morning, everybody. Oh, let me fix this. Yeah, a little bit better. Okay. Are you ready for block 9? This one is super easy. The only issue is making sure your pieces are in the right place because it's one block done two layouts. Okay, so let me show you. This, again, for those of you who don't know, is for Calypso block 9. Um, okay. So we've got 8 total block 9s, but 4 in one layout, 4 in the other layout. These 4 patches are done in the same spot, same way. The big difference is these half square triangles and the solid blocks. So I highly recommend laying them out as you sew. So you have 4 one way and 4 the other way, just to make sure. 4 patches are the same. They are laid out the same, they're in the same position, the whole works. So this diet is the only issue. You're going to make half square triangles, the traditional method, on page 3, and then we're going to do 4 patches. So all I did was sew 2 of them together. I'm going to put these out of the way so we have a little bit more room. So all I did was sew 2 patches together. I've got all of my seams going towards this fabric because it's the same fabric in both 4 patches. So then all I'm going to do is line them up because the seams are sewn in opposite directions. These will butt up against each other very nicely. And I'm going to put a pin in on an angle. I do that so I can start sewing here, stop with my needle in the down position in my seam before I take my pin out. Sometimes, oops, sorry. Sometimes just taking the pin out is enough to mess up your seam alignment. So that's why I've learned to do it this way. Stop with my needle down in the seam before I take my pin up. You never want to sew over your pins. One of 3 things is going to happen. The least worrisome part would be if you break a needle. Then you can actually break a needle and have it ricochet inside and actually mess up the inside of your machine, which is can be a costly repair. And the final issue is I've actually seen the needles ricochet into somebody's face. So you really don't want to sew over your pins. Again, stop with my needle in the down position in my seam before I take my pin out. Readjust bottom of the casing and continue sewing. Let's see how well I did. There we go. My seams line up beautifully. Same thing with this one. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, I did pinwheel these seams. So when I go to iron them, I'm going to iron them in a little pinwheel and unstitch this one little stitch right here in the seam. So that it lays down flat like that. Super easy. Mm. I didn't put my iron up all the way. All right, hold on. I'll show you this one more time. So I laid my block down, and all I'm doing is separating, oops, this one itty bitty seam. And if you have to, you can unstitch, rip out that one little seam there. That way, it lays nice and flat. And I've got my seams. You're more likely this way that if here's the thing, we don't have any seam allowances here to line up here, so it's not that big of a deal. But when you have a lot more seams to line up, doing your 4-patch seam allowance this way will give you more options to make sure your seams are in opposite direction. Plus, for me, this is not a bulky seam this way. So it just makes quilting on your quilt when you're done, whether it's a domestic machine or a long arm, easier because you're not going to get your needle stuck on a bulky seam. All right. Then I iron it from the back real quick, just to keep those pieces down. Turn it over and iron the front. Iron it from the back real quick just to set that seam where I did my little 4-patch pinwheel, and then some spray starch, which I love. I mean, I'm sure you guys have heard me before, but I'll say it again. I haven't found a single iron that doesn't leak. I'm sorry, I just haven't. I wish I could, but I haven't. So my iron is normally dry. There's no water in it or anything like that. So it doesn't dribble on anything. Okay. Now, whoops, wrong one. Now I laid them back down. And here's another great tip. Okay. I have my completed blocks underneath here so that as I'm working on this block and I pull parts away and put them back, I know exactly where they go. Now all we have to do is no aligning, no seams to line up. We're just going to sew these together and then sew these together. I'm not even going to pin. I'm just going to line it up. And sew it together. Pick up my book, make sure my seams stay nice and neat. Go right on into the next one. All right. Well, this one's going to be a quick and easy block. So this one is here and this one is here. I ironed this one towards the solid square and this one towards the triangle. That way it's as the least amount of bulk as possible. So in order to put the seam, iron the seam onto this side, This is the side that's going to be laying up on top of my ironing board. I'll set my seam, open it up, iron it with spray starch, and be done. Setting the seam is just running a hot iron over it real quick, just to get everything heated up and ready to go. All right. Now, because I want the seam to go to the half square triangle side, the half square triangle is on top. Yes, I can talk for the most part. Whoops. All right. Now I'm going to lay them back down. All I'm going to do is line up this middle seam. So we've got the top seam going towards the right, the bottom seam going towards the left. I'm going to butt them up against each other. Put the needle in on a diagonal. And this way, again, I can start from up here and sew down with my needle down in the seam before I take my pin out. Pop with my needle down, take my pin out, and readjust the rest of my block. There we go. And all I have to do is iron it. I ironed this one towards, let's see, let me show you. I ironed it, if this is the way the block goes this way, I ironed it towards this side, towards the flat, the full square block. So I'm going to iron it all down this way. Now, you can, which I think I'm going to do, split this seam just like we did before with the 4 patches. That way, it's a little less bulky. I don't think it's going to matter. So I'm going to iron it the other way. But here we go. You're going to do 8 blocks. Okay. Whoops, goes this way. 8 blocks. 4 this way and 4 this way. See the difference? Okay. That's it. And we're done. So if you have any questions or issues or comments, please post them. And I can't wait to see your completed blocks. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.